Well, hey there, it's me, Big Ugly Jim. I know it's hard to imagine how I came by that nickname, but here we are. So, one of the things I wanted to talk about in one of my streams in the last little while, I mentioned my hair, and I kind of want to go into a little bit of an explanation of why I care, all that kind of stuff. So, when I started growing hair out at the start of COVID, it was just a thing. It didn't, it was a fun thing to do, and I was like, yeah, you know what? I'll grow it in a mohawk. That'll be cool. You're reading some of the comments on my Facebook post. Some stuff, and I kind of want to. I'm not going to like directly address some of it, but I think what I want to do is just sort of speak my mind, and hopefully, I think people will understand. And if they don't, well, sorry. So I became aware of the fact that a mohawk is not just a mark of punk rock credit. Yeah, totally. Some of them are very tone deaf. It's not just a mark of punk rock credit. It's there's a historical tradition there. And particularly, the haircut is called a mohawk after the Mohawk natives, who actually have a proper name that I'm not going to try and say because A, I don't remember it, and B, if I did, I'd be that white guy going and tripping over my tongue. So I don't want to do that. Suffice to say, at no point was I like, oh, I should wear my hair like that. I simply didn't consider it. And then, about a week ago, I was like, I saw something online and I was like, huh, am I being a dick? Like, to me, it's just hair. I like it. It's fun and silly, but that's not really enough of a reason to accidentally offend a whole pile of people. So I wanted to sort of understand a little bit more. One of the first things I saw was that, the Mohawk is not unique to the Mohawk natives, and it has been, they found a 2,000-year-old bog man that had a Mohawk. That's all well and good. I had people point this out in the same way that they're like, well, cavemen had dreadlocks, so therefore it's not a black thing. You know what? Let's face facts. There is something to be said about respecting the fact that this haircut is closely associated with the Mohawk indigenous people. And it's okay for me to be like, hey, I could hide behind that and be like, no, I'm emulating Vikings or bog people or whatever, but I'm not. I wasn't emulating indigenous people either, but kind of end up doing so. But to pretend like, oh no, it's a tribute to my Viking ancestors. I don't have Viking ancestors. I don't. I mean, I might have bog people ancestors, but I just don't think my genealogy goes that far back. And it's really not the thing. The thing that I wanted to understand was, am I out of line? And bog people. It's a thing apparently. Like people were like, "Oh, yeah, Bogman had it. You can have it too." And I was like, "That's neat." So I posted on Facebook, and I specifically was like, "I don't want people to tell me that it looks good, keep it, or it looks dumb, get rid of it, or don't listen to the libtards," because that's what those are the three most common things that people are going to do. The fact that I'm willing to talk about it from that perspective is huge. I I I would hope it's not huge. This is the thing that I think is kind of important that I want to get across is I shouldn't be celebrated for showing bare basic human decency. And I think that's what I'm doing here. Asking the question is just me going, hey, like it's just fucking hair. If it comes down to it, if I decide that I'm gonna, get rid of the mohawk, I'll either grow it out or shave it off or whatever. Like it doesn't fucking change anything in the whole wild world. Looking up Bogman styles. Yeah, man, Bogman's got all the fly gear. You wanna see some real stuff, Bogman, they got the clothes, they got the looks, they got the ladies. But anyway, so I posted on Facebook and I was like, please don't do that. And I got some of that. And a lot of it was very tone deaf. And I don't mean that in any kind of a, like, I'm not trying to insult any of the people that said things because the thinking behind those things was, you know what? You look good. Don't worry about it. And that's a nice compliment, but it's not what I was looking for. what I was looking for particularly was friends of mine who may be more in the know on the subject, who could, you know, give me some guidance. Because I got this one article a bunch, and it was, you know, it was a good article. There was a history teacher who has a son who I think was like 7 or 8 years old, and it said, "Mommy, can I get a mohawk?" And they went and researched, you know, where's the hairstyle from, and you know, okay, so it's the Mohawk indigenous people, and you know, then they looked at scalping and the history of scalping and how having a mohawk would be really insulting, and also they contacted some people on the I guess they lived near the where the Mohawk lived. I don't know shit about shit. I don't even know my name half the time. But they contacted like 3 or 4 people on a reservation who were Mohawk, and they all said like, no, we consider it pretty insulting. This is a particular haircut that refers to young men who would get this haircut are essentially considered like protectors of the people. And that's a serious, like, that's not one of those, oh yeah, shave your head, you can be a protector of the people. It was, you know, it was legit stuff near Boston. Thank you, sugar. And it was definitely a good article, but when I read it I was like, I don't know for sure where I'm standing on this. I wanted to understand better, so I kept, you know, sort of digging. One thing that I'm kind of hiding behind this for the time being, and that is a mohawk. Technically, from what I understand, is the sides and back are sorry, the sides are shaved and the back is not, so it's a strip all the way up. Whereas I have what I lovingly think of as a stupid tuft of hair, which ends right there, which is convenient because, you know, if I ever go bald, which is not likely from genetics, but if I ever go bald, you know, it'll just be a little bit less mohawk instead of, or a little bit less tuft instead of like, you know, a giant hole in the middle of it. But that's sort of where I'm at, is I'm looking at it like I'm gonna keep digging into this to make sure that I'm comfortable with the decision. But I don't think that I'm doing the thing that I don't want to do, and I don't think tough talk, and I don't think that, from what I understand, that it's sort of, you know, bleeding over. If I find out differently, I will absolutely. I genuinely don't care. It's fucking hair. But one of the things that happened was, you know, people would post, you know, hey, don't worry about it. Who cares? Or, you know, well, bog people or whatever. And I get it, and I get the sentiment, but I was specifically asking about the racial connotations of that. And I think I tried to sort of be clear about that. The other thing is I had a lot of people who posted things about like maybe I should talk to a Mohawk person, and I felt strange about that simply because I this is a honky thing, right? When white people are like, "Hey, you're indigenous," and I did this. I have a Haida art tattoo. I can't make my arm bend right. I have a Haida art. It's a kingfisher. Fucking hell. And I got that years and years ago, and it was like actually a tribute to my grandfather, who was not Haida, but he was very close with, very inspired by, and you know, with indigenous people originally in Manitoba. Where when he was a young man, he worked in various projects for like Manitoba Good Roads and the Veterans Land Act, where, you know, literally in the middle of nowhere on the bog marshy shitty Manitoba landscape, building cities that were given, you know, the houses were given to veterans, and designing roads through, you know, to connect them all, and things like that. And he had a glorious collection of arrowheads that he'd found while he was doing his thing, which on his death was donated to a museum in White Rock, where he ended up living in Penticton, and my uncle's ex-wife, who was still close with the family, is a Métis woman, and she had always loved these and didn't want to own them, but on his death, he donated them. She lives in White Rock, so he donated them to a museum in White Rock so that A, everyone could see them, and B, they'd be close to her, which I thought was pretty cool. So, anyways, long time ago, I got this tattoo and thought nothing of it. Certainly didn't think like, oh, am I culturally appropriating? Because those weren't vernacular at the time. When, as time moved on, I was that white guy. I actually messaged Carlin and was like, hey, buddy, can I ask you a white guy question? Because I legitimately was like, I hope I'm not an asshole for this. And what I felt after when I sort of thought back over that, I was like, that was a dick move. I suddenly put on Carlin the necessity to speak for all Indigenous people, to give me the get out of jail free card, because that's really what that was, right? The conversation we had was different than that, and he talked about the fact that it was in no way, it wasn't like me going, oh, dude, I love that art, bro. It was celebrating a connection that I had to a person who had a very strong connection to Indigenous people, and he's like, I don't think that's a thing. But again, I shouldn't have been asking Carlin. So the idea of me contacting some random Mohawk person and just being like, hello, I'm a white person, and I'd like to know if my haircut bothers you. Like, I feel like, we talk about emotional labor. That is me absolutely shoving my emotional labor onto other people who probably don't fucking need it. So that's kind of where I've landed for the time being. Nothing is set in stone. Like I say, it's just hair. I don't give a shit if I choose to get rid of it or not. But I think that's kind of where I'm sitting with it. Is I don't feel like it's insult, and I don't say that from a place of, well, it's just a fucking haircut guy. I say that from, I've done a little looking into it, and I think I'm okay, but I leave that open to, if I'm wrong, I'll fix it. Because the last thing I want to do is be an asshole. And a lot of people were like, who cares? Come on, like this cultural appropriation business is stupid. You know who says that? White people. You know why they say that? Because they don't have culture. And I don't have culture. I get it. But yeah, like, I'm never gonna get mad because somebody burned down Kent or something. Like, that's my culture. Or I'm part German, so actually I do get mad at people appropriating my culture, because let the fucking Nazis all die. But that's probably not German culture, though. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, we don't have that connection, or at least I don't have that connection. It always creeps me out when you talk to somebody and they're like a honky, and they want to know your ethnic makeup. It's like, and they're not doing it like, are you one drop impure or anything like that. It's the like, oh yeah, I'm from Scotland, and like my family comes from this clan. Like, that's a lot of fucking knowledge about something that doesn't mean shit. For the record, my father's father, so my paternal grandfather, his name at birth was Heinrich Wegelein, and he was clearly a German. There's like nothing about the Wegelein family at all. We know that his father had come here, and he was working on I think it was the Trans-Canada or the railroad or something, but died while doing so. He was trying to save up money to bring the whole family over. His wife remarried to a Englishman named Paul Martin, and when they came, Heinrich was already an adult, and it wasn't a particularly good time to have a very German-sounding name, so he actually got legally adopted by this Paul Martin fellow and became Harry Martin. So, like, I know some of my lineage. It's just not important to me. I don't feel like there's a part of me that's, longing for the grand and glorious German Fatherland. And I don't understand when people get real interested and really excited about it. Whatever works, you do you. But that's because I'm a honky. if I came from a culture that was more oppressed and more, there was a richer set of shared traditions, I'd probably have to care a lot more. But I'm a honky from fucking Western Europe. Like, wow, we did stuff. Cool. Let me see. I have not been paying attention. I have Alice in Wonderland symbology on my arm before I learned about the writer's possible motives. I don't know what the writer's possible motives are. I'm assuming he was probably a colonial mindset, given the time that it was written in. And I know he was a giant fan of the old opium. That caterpillar was hooking up. But I don't know the specifics there. Ever since I announced my Siksika heritage, I've been getting white person questions. I'm just learning it all myself, so it's hard for me to have an opinion on things in that matter. Totally, totally. And I think that's a thing that is very common. I've tried, like sugar, for example. I've tried really hard not to ask stupid honky questions because, she's a friend, she's wonderful, but she's not from Siksika, Tsuut'ina, she's not Mohawk. So for me to be like, hey, riddle me this, Batman. Is my haircut offensive? You have 10 seconds and go. That's kind of like someone coming up to me and being like, were the Boers in the right? I don't fucking know. Probably not. Yeah, Sugar Ray dealing with colorism. I saw your post earlier on Facebook about that, and I was like, fuck. Yell at me for being a honky all you want, but yelling at you for being a honky is kind of weak. That's also why we don't speak on behalf of our nation or other nations. I just mentioned that. We always start by saying, I can only speak for myself with the knowledge I currently have. Totally. And Bender, I was denied my heritage by my mother. Long dark story. This is not the okay. I will not read that out then. But yeah, so that's sort of where I came to on this. Again, the answer isn't final. It's just this is kind of where I'm at right now, and I'm more than happy to reconsider if I find out that I'm being a giant dink, because I don't want to be a giant dink. That's a thing. So that I wanted to get that out of the way because I thought that's. I think a lot of people might have been a little confused about my original post, and I think there was a lot of real tone deaf. I think is the answer. I personally think that this is actually a worthwhile question to ask. When people were getting upset when the whole question of dreadlocks came up, my initial reaction when I heard about this was dreadlocks have been a thing for forever. Why are we suddenly attributing it to black culture? But then I thought about it and I was like, they may very well have been a thing for forever, but very obviously there's a strong connection to black culture. And I get why black culture would be like, hey, please don't. And I just don't see, like, again, I shaved my head for 20-ish years, 25 years, something like that. I don't have a connection to hair because hair is fucking stupid. I enjoy it. I enjoy having it. I enjoy putting pomade in it and being able to like do beaker hair. But it's fucking hair. If it came down to if I thought that I was being a dink, I would stop having the hair. I like your hair. It's your hair. It's your hair. Do what you want with it. Yes, but again, was asking for a very particular reason around race and around sensitivity on my end. So that's part of do what I want with my hair was, part of that was I want to make sure that I'm not being a dink with my hair. Many black people don't even know where they came from. Can we just let them have one thing? Totally, totally. I read this article and it was about, I think it was 3 black women who had gone to Africa and had who knows, I'm not sure where, but they were talking with some tribeswomen. If I don't even know if that's the appropriate term or if I'm a dink again, but they were talking with some women, and they had like a little ceremony, just the women and these 3 black women, and the women basically said, gave them warm hugs and were like, we get it, you don't know who you are, but you're one of us, no matter what. You're one of us because We have that shared lineage, whether it's close or far, it doesn't matter. We're all together. And I was like, that's so beautiful. Like, honkies don't even like each other on the best of days. We'll pretend like white people aren't white enough, and we'll kill each other for stupid shit. But I just thought that was really sweet. Anyways, clearly I can ask the question if it doesn't offend people, or make sure it doesn't. And I did. That was the whole purpose of this segment or whatever. By the same token, if you didn't want to ask if it offended, that'd be okay. Bender's growing his out, loving having those moments, letting it blow in the wind with a head shake. It's the little things. I totally get that. I have terrible hair. Like, at the end of the day, the one piece of culture that I have is awful, shitty, wavy, not quite curly, not straight hair. And that's why I shaved it off for 25 years. Is it's just a pain in the ass. Growing it out has been real fun. Has been real. I like having bedhead. I like feeling the wind in my hair. I like when the rain makes it wet. Like, these are new experiences for me. So I get you. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to address on that particular topic. I think I think there was some friction with some of the comments, and I want to kind of touch on that, I guess, a little bit. White people hate when you say white fragility, and I totally understand why. But we need to have a conversation, and I, as a honky, want to talk to you honkies about this because I get it. A long time ago, I made the same kinds of comments that were in no way intended to be insulting. Were in no way intended to other people. Were in no way intended to, you know, do all the things that those comments do. And I got angry when I got called out on my response. And the anger is understandable because I'm like, literally, I didn't fucking do that. Like, maybe you took it the wrong way or whatever, but like, it's not the intention I had. It's not what's in my heart. Like, fuck right off. I'm not being a bad person here. And you're being a bad person dogpiling on me. I so understand that reaction, but it's wrong. And I was wrong when I did the same thing. And I was lucky enough that I had someone who was maybe a little further along the grown up scale, who, after I calmed down, they sat me down and we talked about it. And I don't honestly recall what the specific thing was that led to the conversation, but I had said stuff. It was tone deaf, without intention, without any desire to hurt or to express awful things or whatever. But I did. And that person explained, told me a few important things. Number one, the person who was calling me out was a person of color. And I felt very attacked for that. And that is still something that I try to deal with, and I struggle. And sometimes you can't help but take on a personal sort of vibe to an attack like that. But it's not an attack. That's my fragility. And they explain how, because I was like, well, the reaction was unfair. And it was. In a perfect world, if I said something stupid, somebody should come along and say, here's why that's stupid. You're good. And instead, it came off a lot more accusatory. And the response was, yeah, they're fucking tired. And that is valid. People who deal with this, they're tired. They're constantly getting all sides of conversations slamming all over them, giving them shit for this kind of stuff. And that, you have to take that into context. In the same way that, I'm a Joey lunchbox who comes home from work and my wife's had a bad day and she's snarky. I don't take that as she hates me. I don't have a wife. I'm also giving a really shitty 1950s analogy, but I don't take it as she hates me. I take it as there's more to this story. There's more to her reaction. I'm gonna take it easy. I'm gonna just like, let's drop it. Let's whatever. Understand. There's an understanding there, right? And then the other thing is that I may not have intended these things, but that doesn't mean they don't happen. You know, you hear all the time about like English teachers in universities using, valid, historically accurate N words, for example. And yeah, you didn't mean to be a dick. You didn't write the words. You're directly quoting. I get it. But did you have to? Probably not. Could you have said N word or whatever? Probably. Is it a big deal to have said that? No. Is it a big deal to have said, or when I said that, is it a big deal to have said N word instead of the thing? No. Is it a big deal to have said the word? Apparently, yes. Whether you meant it or not, apparently fucking yes. There are times when that gets a little over the top. There was a senator, finance guy in the States, I think it was a congressman or senator, and used a word that has no relationship to the N word, but contains that word. And it's from what I understand, it's a reference to being penny smart and pound foolish, or whatever the appropriate term. It's an old timey word that a lot of people don't use, and he said the word, and people were upset, and he quit, and he was really upset about it. But what it boils down to is, even when you didn't mean offense, you can cause offense, and then you have the choice to say sorry and mean it, or scold people for coming at you. One of them is successful and effective, and one of them's not. Opportunistic racism. I'm not 100% sure I know what that particular term means. I still get triggered from time to time when someone tells me check your privilege. It's immediate and visceral reaction. I have to stop, breathe, and think about what their intent is. And often it's a cue to a deeper understanding of their frustration and concerns and the role ignorance, in this case mine, plays. Totally. I I have gotten to a place where I can understand how much privilege I have. But when the topic of privilege first appeared on my little radar, you know, I'm looking at things like I grew up poor in a middle class, or I grew up like lower middle class in an upper middle class to upper class area. So I always felt poor, and I was excluded from things for being poor and all that kind of stuff. You know, like there's a million things that I could go into where, oh, I've had my struggles. I haven't been privileged. Privileged, that's not what privilege is. And I sometimes, you know, it's hard to keep in mind the fact that there's a bigger picture. But that's what we got to do, right? We have to understand white privilege means that the encounters that I had with cops that were offensive to me didn't end in my getting arrested or shot, which I'm good with. I'm glad I didn't get arrested or shot. Arrested and shot's kind of shitty. Let's see now. I feel some writers use it strictly for shock value and sometimes enjoy being able to use that direct quote card because they feel they get one. Totally. Totally agree. There are any, you know, a hammer can be used to drive in nails or bash in the skulls of our enemies. There are people who absolutely intentionally use the word to cause a reaction, feeling like this is a, you know, whether it's because it's an important lesson or whatever, like it doesn't fucking matter. You knew it was the wrong word to use in public and you used it. There are consequences. Sorry about your luck. Opportunistic racism is when they look for loopholes to express their racism. Okay, yeah, no, I get that. I get that. I think from a timing, oh, you know what? I do get the what you're saying there. I thought we were talking about me and I had said something and I wasn't meaning to be racist. That's the different conversations. Yeah, the all lives loophole is a good example of that. Yes, quoting classic novels. I remember being in a karaoke bar and someone was doing NWA and I was just like, as a white guy, and I was like, oh yeah, I get it. You're a fucking edgelord. What the? Why are you not getting the shit kicked out of you? Because you kind of should be. Yeah, you start any rebuttal with all lives I'm immediately triggered. Fuck yeah. All lives matter is cowardice. It is where the statement Black Lives Matter or Indigenous Lives Matter or whatever lives matter is intended to be a statement that like they matter too. We have to extend the same respect and privileges to them as to the broader honky society. When you go, well, all lives matter, the exact effect of that is to say, sit down and shut up. What you're saying means nothing. And I fucking hate that. Anyways, that was a long ramble based on a haircut. But you know what? I think it was a good ramble based on a haircut. And of all the times I've seen conversations around haircuts, this was the best. And thank you guys for being a part of it. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate all the support. If you want to support me directly, you can like, subscribe, or comment, or follow whatever doohickeys are available to you at this particular moment. I also have a Patreon if you want to support me via that. I have a whopping 2 patrons. One of them is my good friend, Mr. Shithead Dave Anderson, who gets the super special I love you, thank you for the videos. And the other one is my friend Kelvin, who just gets a regular thank you. It's not my fault. That's how the tiers work, which is actually exactly my fault. Anyways, thank you for watching. Thank you for taking the time. And I hope whatever you do, I hope our paths cross again. And I hope you have a great day.